Hey everyone, good morning. I think we will just go ahead and get started. I think there are some people having issues with the team link. So if you have any colleagues that have problems joining, please do share the link with them. Otherwise, this is also going to be recorded. So I will be sending that out after the webinar to everyone that signed up, but also I think our greater leisure database. Anyways, today we are going to be focusing on Fort Myers, and the reason why we're doing that is because we recently hosted a fam trip to the area together with Icelandair. On this fam trip, we got to see a different amount of properties and areas to get a feel of it as a holiday destination in 2026, but also forwards. So today will be an introduction to those different properties that we visited, but also I will include some of the low and high season pricing just to give you an idea of the price points and possibilities within each of these areas. Then I also recognize that the invitation did say that we would be featuring news and updates from Santa Cruz and SlowCal. But unfortunately, they did inform me yesterday that they would not have time to get their material ready for today. So I will be sharing that with you as soon as I receive it from them. But anyways, I'll go ahead and get started, and thank you for joining. So first of all, this is a map of Fort Myers. For those of you that are unfamiliar with the area, I hope you can see my mouse as I navigate around here. Up here we have Sanibel and Captiva Islands. They connect to the mainland via a bridge that you can see here. Then down here you have Fort Myers Beach, which extends south and also connects via a bridge, I believe, into Bonita Springs. Then up here we have downtown Fort Myers, which you can access another area that is Cape Coral from. I'll go into more details about these areas just in a little bit. First, I just also want to point out that these were the properties that we visited on the fam trip, as well as the West Inn Resort, which is located here in Cape Coral. I will also just be going in detail about that one at the end. But first off, I want to focus on the islands of Captiva and Sanibel, which is where we had our first site visits. So both Sanibel and Captiva are known for their Caribbean feel and sandy white beaches and amazing seashells. And then they have this very turquoise water that you can see here. That is not my photo, but it is one-to-one what it looks like when you're there. So it's very picture perfect. I do, of course, want to address the fact that that Sanibel Island and Captiva Island were some of the areas that were hardest hit by Hurricane Ian. It is, however, also one of the places that have been the fastest to rebuild. You do still see some empty lots that have previously had hotels in and that are yet to be purchased by new owners, and there is rebuilding going on in the areas, but I would say had I not been hyper-focused on spotting these remnants of Hurricane Ian, then it is not something that would have bothered me on a visit to Sanibel or Captiva. I do also want to point out that on both islands you do have these areas where you have, I mean, I personally did not see these, this is also not my picture, but we did see something similar to this. These cut off palm trees and this kind of dead-looking vegetation. That is protected vegetation, so that is not something that is necessarily left over from Hurricane Ian. It is something that is not going to be removed, that is permanent. So that is just also worth keeping in mind. It is, however, not something you see all over the island. It is just, you know, a small part of it. Otherwise, I mean, I would highly recommend anyone to stay in these islands. It's very nice, very local. people cycling around and walking around in flip-flops and shorts, and yeah. So the first property that we visited in Captiva was the Twin Waters Inn and Marina. So the property is located so far north on Captiva. Let me just see if I can find a picture here. So far north on Captiva that you actually have water on both sides of the property. Sorry. The beach that you can see up here from inside the property is just easily accessible. You just have to cross a road. The property has plenty of amenities. They have a very family-friendly pool. They also have a more adult pool that is a bit more quiet. They have a marina area where you can rent kayaks. There's a little harbor shop. They have a pizza place where you can get takeaway pizza either to eat on the beach or take back to your room or whatever. They also have some more nicer looking restaurants. So there's plenty of stuff on this property. I have just included the price for a Bayview 2 queen beds, so 2 adults, 2 children. That will be the theme going through these properties. 2 adults, 2 children, the off-season and peak season pricing, and then the resort fee. So the resort fee does include these resort amenities like sports rentals and pool access and beach access and all of that. Yeah, so these are a few of the pictures that I took of the 1 double bed, 1 bedroom, and then 2 bed, or the 2 queen beds here. Yeah. So the next property that we visited was the South Sea Resort, which is I would say, pretty large property on Captiva, which is located just a bit south of the previous property, the Twin Waters. It spans over an area which is about 3 kilometers wide, facing the ocean. So it's a very spacious property that has quite a few amenities. They also have many different accommodation options. You can just see a selection of some of the amenities that are available here. So they have 4 of these boats, I believe, available for you to rent. It also does come with a captain, so he can take you around on a few hours boat ride around Captiva, where you can go shelling and see some birds and other incredible things around Captiva. This is actually a picture I took from that boat visit, so you just can get an idea of how many seashells they actually have. I believe there's upwards of 70 different types of seashells. So that's a really great activity. I definitely do recommend going there. Another thing that they have, I will actually just skip to the next slide so that you can see the pricing here. So again, I've included for 1 bedroom Captiva resort villa that fits 2 adults and 2 children. I have set the price or the age of the children to be 10 years old, so that can obviously differ. But at the South Seas, the resort fee is $40 plus 11.5% tax per day for each guest, and children aged 12 and under are complimentary. But the resort fee also includes access to the Sunset Beach access and then amenities, and then that includes like internet, parking, the trolley that goes around the resort, and then access to the pools. They have this thing called Captiva Landing. That's a very big pool area with slides and very kids friendly. They also have an arcade and an indoors kid friendly area where you can sit in air condition and color with crayons and stuff like that. Then they also have, 1 second. I will just go back 1 bit because they also do have some restaurants that have very nice food. I believe these pictures are from the Redfish Grill, I believe it was, which we went to. You can also see a picture from it here. It's a very open and spacious restaurant. It's facing out toward, it is literally the beach on the other side. I would personally recommend this place. It's very high quality food compared to what you sometimes can find. So I would say the property does have very nice restaurants. Let me just see if there's anything I missed from this one. Oh, yes, and then they are actually also getting ready to build a new spa. Construction has not started yet, but I believe it was to start within the near future. Right, so just moving a bit south of Captiva, we have Sanibel Island, which is very similar climate to Captiva. Um, then the first resort that I want to highlight here is the Shalimar Beach Resort. So this was one of the properties that was 100% destroyed by Hurricane Ian. But it is also the first resort that has completely rebuilt in the last 40 years on the island. It's completely rebuilt from the ground up. It is family owned, and I believe the sales manager is Lithuanian, and he takes a lot of pride in the interior design on the property being very European friendly, whatever that means. I think it was something about lower beds and stuff. um, Either way, it's a very nice property that's also, again, located almost directly on the beach. It has a rooftop that you can, I think he said once a month they try to do some picnicking and a little bar situation on the rooftop. Don't quote me on that, but I believe that is what he said when we were there. They also have a barbecue area, a picnic area, and then the pool that they have down here is saltwater. Um, so these pictures that I've taken are actually from the front row rooms, just from their balconies, so you can kind of get a feel for how close you actually are to the ocean and how amazing a view over the Gulf you actually have. So these pictures over here are taken from their one-bedroom villas, also again so you get an idea of how they look. The property reopened in September 2025, so it is fairly new and it still kind of has a new feel to it. Then again, just a little bit further south of Shalimar Beach Resort, then you have the Anchor Inn and Cottages. That's another property that has actually just recently reopened. It is still also very. It was an old inn that was destroyed by the hurricane, which was then taken over by a young family with 6 small children. They have then decided to rebuild the inn and then also adding these A-shaped houses that you see over here. I've decided to include the pricing for what an A-frame cottage would be. I believe they are a bit on the pricier side compared to the regular rooms. But you do have a balcony facing this way, and then you have a top floor balcony on the other side as well. Yeah, the property does have a pool, which is located just right next to the A-shaped houses here, and then it also has a resident baby alligator that you can see there. And then right next door they have a deli market, and then a bit further down the street there's access to a few shops. I would not call it a shopping area, but there is a few shops, and they do have a few nice restaurants, such as, I believe it was called Dock Forts, which is seafood and grill, a nice place. It is not an ocean-facing property, but the beach is about 5 minutes away. You can rent bikes and bike there, but otherwise it is also very easily accessible by car, as most things are in this area. Then moving over to Fort Myers Beach. So just a general update in regards to Fort Myers Beach. It was, as many know, the area that was hurt the worst by Hurricane Ian. At Pink Shell Resort, which you can see at the bottom here, they had water up until their 3rd floor. But let me just go back here. While we have, I just want to backtrack a bit and say, as of 2026, Fort Myers Beach is no longer in a recovery effort. So up here on the north side of the beach, where you have Margaritaville and Pink Shell and Diamond Head Beach Resort, I did not personally get the feel that there was any kind of recovery efforts or rebuilding going on. However, while we didn't go further south, I have heard that it is more of the rebuilding is still ongoing further south. I don't want to call it rebuilding, maybe more of construction of new properties and so on. So that is going on further down south on the island, but up north, up here, it's very nice and fully back to pre-hurricane operation. So let me see if there was anything that I missed. Maybe just in regards to the beach quality here, you are not going to find the same turquoise waters that you have on Sanibel and Captiva. They do not have that in Fort Myers Beach, and that's simply just due to the river. Let me see if I can pronounce that river name again. I believe it was called the Caloosahatchee River that ebbs out here onto Fort Myers Beach, and that simply just means it has different vegetation and undersea climate than it does on Captiva and Sanibel Island. It is also an area, and I will just show that in the next picture. They do sometimes get a large amount of algae on the beach. I do believe, and I can circulate that if you would like to see that, there is a website, I believe by Visit Fort Myers, where you can actually see the current beach status and kind of whether it is likely that there will be algae in the coming days or something. I believe this amount of algae was actually there because it had rained in the last week. So yeah, that is just a natural part of it. You don't see that in Sanibel and Captiva, but I absolutely do not have anything negative to say about these beaches. It is just worth noting. You still have dolphins popping up and amazing seashells, and yeah. Then, now that I'm already on the slide, but the property that we went to in Fort Myers Beach was the Pink Shell Beach Resort and Marina. A very family-friendly resort, so they have a lot of activities that are catered to families. For example, activities with Ranger Rob. He does a fantastic job in teaching guests about the wildlife on the beach, sea turtles, crabs, fish, vegetation, anything. He was actually also the ones that told us about the algae and the beach climate and everything like that. Like you can also see here, the resort fee is $59 at the property, but then you also get access to, bikes and kayaks and paddle board rentals. And Ranger Rob, he actually also does sunrise kayak tours where he also teaches you about the climate. So that's just a fun activity that they offer. He also has a little hut here on the beach where he has a lot of stuff from the beach life and sea turtles and stuff like that. So unfortunately, the resort was fully booked when we were there, so we only managed to get to see one of their huge suites, brand new. But besides that, they do have studio and then one and two bedroom options that I've included the price for here. Yeah, I again would say I really recommend this property for families. The pool is really nice. They actually have several pool areas. There is also one that's a bit more quiet and relaxed, maybe for an older audience. Yeah, the restaurants are great. They have a breakfast buffet that is, I believe, included in the nightly rate. Huge variety of breakfast foods. And then they also have I think it is in here, they have an Italian restaurant that is also supposed to be very nice. Did not eat there, but I heard that it was supposed to be good. Yeah. So moving away from Fort Myers Beach and driving up here to downtown Fort Myers, you find some of the more historic buildings up here, and you also have a higher concentration of restaurants and bars and shops. I would not say it's a huge downtown area, but I do think it's worth paying a visit to and strolling around in. They have a few rooftop bars around, and I think it's quite nice, and it's very local. It's local shops that they have, and But it's a nice area. It's also located quite close to the Edison and Fort Winter estates, so the potential is to combine a visit to there. They have quite a lovely botanical garden there to check out, and it's also facing out towards the water. So that is possible. In downtown Fort Myers, right, there we go. Oh, it was the Caloosahatchee River. Right, so that is exactly what I just said, but in the middle of downtown Fort Myers, we also have the Luminary Hotel. It's a large property that is part of the Autograph collection. It does not maybe have the same beachy holiday feel like some of the previously mentioned properties have, and it doesn't have balconies either, so I wouldn't necessarily say that it has that feel that many of the other properties have, but it is more like a traditional city hotel in that sense. They do have 3 really nice restaurants on site. I think given that you are in downtown Fort Myers, you will have access to some nice eating options, but on site they have their own rooftop bar with food also, so that you can get a good view over both downtown but also greater Fort Myers. And they also have a more low-key diner and then a more fancy coastal kitchen restaurant. Yeah, I have not been able to find a resort fee for this one if there is one, but again, if that is something you would like me to reach out to the property and inquire about, let me know. I do have the contact information for them. Yeah, moving on. So another area that is located over here, kind of separated by the river, is Cape Coral. So Cape Coral is a more residential area. It's like you can see here, I wouldn't even call it connected. It's made up of 400 miles of canals. You can kind of get an idea of what it looks like here. Very residential. There's a lot of vacation rental homes in this area, and then it's accessible. Sanibel is accessible by boat. It takes about 40 minutes. If you want to drive to Sanibel or Fort Myers Beach, it is going to take about 45 minutes to an hour. So it's not necessarily an area that I would recommend that you visit to go explore the area. It is very residential and there's not much to see. But if you are staying in a vacation rental home, it is a nice area to stay in. Just do bear in mind that it is the transportation time to other areas that have more activities is on the longer side. The reason why I do mention Cape Coral is because that when we were in Fort Myers on our friend trip, we stayed at the West End Cape Coral Resort at Marina Village. So I'll just go back to the map. So that is located right, I believe right here. So facing the river, every room on this property faces water one way or another. You will always have access to either the sunrise or the sunset, which is, by the way, amazing in these parts of the world. Yeah, so it is a property I would maybe recommend to an audience that is either adult or has older children, and that is simply because it does not have access to the same amount of amenities that some of the other properties have access to. You don't have beach access here. They do have really nice pools and they have really nice facilities and amenities, but it is not, you can't stroll around the area. There is a little marina village here with a few shops, but other than that, you are kind of secluded, actually. So there is the option to either take the boat to Sanibel. I believe it comes back at 3 p.m. if I remember correctly. I can double check that if necessary. Yeah, they do have options to go kayaking in the mangroves, and you can go on dolphin cruises and, relax by the pool, but it is very isolated to the resort in this area. Right, anyways, that was sort of the update on Fort Myers that I wanted to give. I do want to say that if there is anything, I will check for questions in a second. Sorry, I forgot to say that at the beginning. If you have any questions, please write them in the chat. I cannot see them right now, but in a second I will exit this presentation and I can see them. I also just want to say that we are hosting a content advisory board, hopefully in June at some point. We had great success with it in March, where we invited tour operators to come into our office in Copenhagen and talk about current trends within trade, but also general tourism trends, and then trends that they see on social media, for example, and then also just quite in general, how can we assist with content that we receive from destinations? Is that something that's relevant to you, and so on. If that's something you would like to participate in going forward, then let me know. I still have spots available for June. If you're not located in Copenhagen, we are also thinking about the option of hosting one on Teams. So if you would be interested in participating in that from a distance, then write me an email and we can figure that out. Yeah, and then lastly, I will circulate that after when I send out the materials, but we do have a live content document where we consistently update with image banks and visitors guides and any of the latest information that we have from any of our destinations. It is mainly so that it's easily accessible for you guys, so that you can bookmark it and use it whenever you see fit. So I will link that when I send it out, and then feel free to use it whenever you want. I will exit this now and see if there are any questions.